Today, we're going to explain why Christian fundamentalists make bad neighbors, and this is the Halloween edition. We begin with this tweet I saw this morning from Answers in Genesis stating, "Make Christ central even on Halloween." I jokingly retweeted that with a comment saying, "Uh-oh, looks like the fundamentalists are giving out tracts for Halloween again." Little did I know, the previous day Answers in Genesis had in fact tweeted this. When people knock on your door this Halloween, give an eternal gift, the gospel of Jesus Christ. So Answers in Genesis is advocating for proselytizing children, and if their parents happen to be there, proselytizing the parents as well. Let's unpack this to understand why Christian fundamentalists are not great neighbors. Now, I want to first of all begin by explaining, if we don't know already, what motivates fundamentalists like Answers in Genesis. And they think in these kinds of terms. So I saw this from a fellow tweeted a little while ago on Twitter. So an image of a man standing in the street, angrily saying, "Don't judge me," to the Christian fundamentalist who's standing on the side of the road, although actually he's standing in the road himself. He should probably move on the other side of that white line, I would think. But he's standing, I guess, on the side of the road saying, "Get out of the road, trust Jesus." So to the world, quote unquote, he appears obnoxious. But from his perspective, he's simply warning people of the coming wrath of God in the form of a semi-truck. This says a lot, by the way, about the way fundamentalists view God. God is like a semi-truck barreling toward you who's about to steamroll you unless the fundamentalists can manage to pull you out of the way. This mentality goes very deep into the roots of fundamentalism, back at least to the 19th century. Dwight Moody, for example, was a famous evangelist of the 19th century who said, and I'm slightly paraphrasing here, but he said that God had commissioned him, saying, "Moody, go into the world and save all you can," uh, with the image of like trying to pull people into a lifeboat. So imagine, for example, you are in a lifeboat on in the shores of the North, or in the water of the North Atlantic, just as the Titanic is sinking, and you're just trying to pull as many people as you can into the boat desperately, whether they want to get in the boat or not. That's kind of like the fundamentalist views themselves. God's wrath of the sea and the iceberg are killing people, and so you need to try to get them into the boat. So when it comes around to Halloween, if people come to your door, well, what do? You try to get them into the boat, right? You try to save them. You try to proselytize parents and children. Well, of course, I get the logic there. I understand why they think they're being selfless. But let's try the golden rule on this first of all. How would you feel if a Muslim or a Mormon or a Buddhist or any other religious tradition had that same approach, that when you brought your children to their door, or when your children went out into the neighborhood and knocked on doors for candy and went to those people's house, that they would use that as an opportunity to try to proselytize your children and convert them to their religion? You'd probably not be happy about that. Uh, that's an idea of the golden rule. So if you would not want people to use that as an evangelistic method to reach out to your children or to you, perhaps you shouldn't use it either to reach out to others. The interesting thing is, when you look at Christian fundamentalists today, they tend to repel outsiders. When you look to Jesus, he tended to draw outsiders, whether it was the woman caught in adultery, or the Roman centurion, or the tax collector, or the leper, or the Samaritan. He drew people to him, outsiders. They wanted to spend time with him, they wanted to be close to him. Very few, if any, people say that about Christian fundamentalists who are not part of that subculture. And that suggests to me that Christian fundamentalists have gotten something very wrong. Maybe in the same way that Jesus advocated in Matthew 25, when he talked about how you divide sheep and goats. He didn't say the sheep are those who proselytized on the side of the road, bellowing at people through a bullhorn, or jamming tracts into their um, pillowcases of candy on Halloween. Rather, The sheep are those who fed the hungry, who uh, nurtured the sick, who visited those in prison. The sheep are those maybe who put a chocolate bar in the bucket or in the pillowcase and wished people a happy Halloween and began to build a relationship and be salt and light in the neighborhood, building community and being attractional in the same way that Jesus was attractional. Unfortunately, fundamentalists just tend not to get that. And that's why fundamentalists tend not to make good neighbors.